My title, what you need to know about credit and how to stop fraud. Okay, it's mainly a recap from the class that I took a couple weeks ago called Focus on Credit. It was taught by Vicki Springer, and I couldn't tell you what companies came from. We really didn't get that much info, and she did have a slide presentation, but we didn't get a slide handout. So everything that you learned from me, I have either gone back and checked it and I did some extras, but I also took a ton of notes that day because I felt like I was learning everything with fresh eyes. Never seen this stuff before. So, but some of this I have seen. So the first page I go through of my notes pretty much is stuff about me, but anyway, so as a young adult in college, I cannot tell you how many pieces of mail I got offering me credit cards. Anybody in that boat?
Still.
So, and at that time I was very young and naive. I thought that made me a great person. They're offering me credit. So I can use it, and that makes me a great American citizen, right? So I quickly got into debt since they were willing to loan me the money. And it didn't take long for my husband and I to get in way over our heads. Today, along with many other things, you will learn how to opt out of solicitations like these. So that's my whole point in that. But first, the basics. What is credit? Now, I gave you a sheet here up. This is basically just so you don't have to take a ton of notes on the important things, but you certainly can write on your paper and take more notes. But the credit that I'm going to be talking about right now, you're going to see the little circle down there. What is credit? Credit is a contract agreement in which a borrower receives a sum of money or something of value and repays the lender at a later date, generally with interest. What is a credit score? Credit score ranges from 300 to 850, and you can see that in the numeric down there. A higher credit score signals that a borrower is lower risk or more likely to make on-time payments. Credit scores are often used to help determine the likelihood someone will pay what they owe on debt, such as loans, mortgages, credit cards, rent, utilities, you name it. Lenders may use credit scores to evaluate loan qualification, credit limits, and interest rates. And one of the interesting things here, I just made a little note because as I was looking at pictures, this one came from Experian, the little diagram you have, but there are three, and we're going to talk about that in a second, 3 different FICO scores. But Forbes has come out recently with one called the Vantage score. So just if you come across that, realize it's not the same system as the FICO. Okay, so we're going to be dealing with FICO scores a lot today. And just in general, you see where the poor rating is at, and they've even told you about what the percentages are in the United States. And did you want one, John? You can have one too. But anyway, you got 16% are in the poor range, the very good, 25%, exceptional, 21% of Americans supposedly land in the exceptional. I have seen maybe 3 in my lifetime, 3 people, that, and I don't know everybody's credit scores, but I've come across a few that actually had over 800, and I was like, I want to be that. Are you over 800?
No, I was going to ask you. Go ahead. What did you say Forbes was called?
Vantage.
Vantage. I heard that.
What does FICO stand? Good question. Something federal something credit index or federal, maybe. That's something we can look at. I'm not sure. Okay, but FICO uses percentages to represent generally how important each category is. Though the exact percentage breakdown used is to determine your credit score will depend on your unique credit report. FICO considers scoring factors in the following order, and this you also have on your page. So this is it's like how they weight it is what they're talking about. So your payment history. Is your payment late? Okay, and usually they don't get reported to the credit place until they are like 30 days or more late. Okay, so on day 30, somebody can send that straight. They have one. Right now, that's for you. Okay. So your payment history, amounts that you owe, that's kind of like a debt to income, only this is how much do you owe of what they have granted you. So you have a credit card that has a maximum limit of $1,000 and you've used 800 of that, you've used 80%. Okay, does that make sense? And then, so that's actually weighted in how much are you keeping them paid down or are you maxed out, basically. Another one is your length of credit history. How long have you had, you know, these loans or these credit cards? How long has all that been getting, you know, built up? And we've all dealt with young adults, 19, 20-year-olds who haven't built their credit up yet or whatever. And then there's this thing called credit mix. This was a new one to me. So they actually give you credit points for having a variety of credit. And when I talked to the teacher, I was like, well, okay, so if all of my loans are geared toward my portfolio of buying houses, okay, that's only one kind of credit. If I'm getting a ton of those, but I have no credit card, or I have no, you know, furniture on whatever, on credit. So that was just kind of an interesting, you know, tidbit that they actually value that, that you have a variety. So good thing to do is to have one on one kind. Your credit score is basically a tool to measure your behavior and how well you handle your finances. Do you have good credit? You can actually ask for a lower rate on credit cards. If you know that your credit's up there in that 750, 800 range, try to get that credit scores down, or the interest down. And it is best if you do get credit cards that you just keep them paid down. Did you know that closing cards can actually lower your score? And Vicki, yeah, this was quite interesting to me. Dave Ramsey, everybody has heard of him and the classes that he provides. Vicki said that she does not fully approve of the way he advises to pay off all the smaller cards and get rid of them, and then you move to the bigger one, whatever. If you're trying to work on your credit scores to buy a house especially, then you may want to keep the card, and when you actually get the card, that's when it lowers your score. But giving it back doesn't, not like canceling it, okay? And then but the damage is already done, so it doesn't go back because you canceled it. She recommended that you pay down the bigger cards first, and you should have a variety of credit and loans to maximize your credit worthiness. It's the maxed out cards that give you the worst credit than the ones that are paid down. And if you have no credit cards and everything is paid off, you could end up with a low score for not using it at all. There's people out there who have, you know, lived their life, they've done it all, they've paid it off, and you're so proud of yourself. I paid off my house, I paid off my credit cards, everything is done and gone. Now I'm living with cash, and then, you know, 3 years down the road, I want to go buy a house, and I have no credit again. Like, if you don't use it and maintain it, and, you know, that's the whole idea of the credit score, is that they are watching how well you pay your bills. So it doesn't do any good to get completely debt-free if you do want to, again, buy a house. Now, if you're debt-free and you've saved up enough cash to buy another house, obviously you don't ever have to worry about that. But if you do want to use that, you're going to be in trouble.
Did she use any utilities, regular utility payments?
For
your credit score?
If you don't pay.
We'll get to that, yeah.
That's what I was
If they
thinking.
get
So-
reported to the credit bureau,
You can
it will affect you.
Get it turned off.
You
Yeah.
can look at it as that, but I
But if
think.
you pay your bill every month on time, no,
No,
it's not
yeah.
on your credit score, it doesn't affect your credit score.
Okay.
Okay.
Only if it goes into collections problem, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll get turned off.
Okay. Now this is where things get real interesting. Did you know there are 28 different FICO scores?
No.
We're used to 3, right? I mean, just what we work with on a daily basis. We have Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Within each of those, there's about 10 different versions. Kind of like, and they update every so often, kind of like the iPhone does. You get your iPhone 10 and then your iPhone 11 and your whatever. Well, that's what's happened, okay? So basically there's about 10 versions of each, and version number 8 is the most widely used. Version number 10 is currently the latest version. They'll probably come out with another one, so that may change. And different types of loans are weighted differently. The mortgage FICO scores are looking at the older versions, believe it or not.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes.
The versions of
FICO
Experian,
scores.
TransUnion, and Equifax?
Yeah, all three of those total
Like there's
have
formulas.
28 versions.
Formulas, like a.
Oh, what's the, what do you,
Okay, so it's like they started out and they made a FICO score in the very beginning, and then they updated it, and they made it say, okay, now you're FICO number 2. They updated it again, now you're FICO number 3. Well, we're all the way up to number 10. They've updated so many times.
updated how they score you?
How they
Or-
score you, or they change different things in how they're, yes, exactly, all those little changes. So what happens is your mortgage FICO scores look at the older versions though, believe it or not. So the credit card companies may use, well, they do use a different number to represent your score. You cannot rely on a version 8 score when purchasing a house. Mortgage companies use, now here's your biggie, Experian uses version 2. The second one that they ever came out with, they stuck with it.
So what does that mean? I mean, what is it they're looking at? What's different about them?
I don't know the exact of what's different. I just know that if you go get a credit card and they're looking at your credit scores to get a credit card with or to buy a car with, they're using a different version than what Experian Mortgage is using. Okay? Equifax for mortgages, they are using version 5. And TransUnion in their set are using version 4. So the most widely used now, and what we see advertised on TV, hey, we can make your credit look better, we can hire your credit scores, they're actually hiring the credit scores most of the time on version 8, not on version 2, 5, and 4. Okay?
So something like Credit Karma, you're saying would be probably using.
We're going to get to credit
So
card in a
they
second.
take those three, the mortgage company's taking those 3 scores, right? And
Mhm.
getting a one
That's how
number.
they get their one number somehow. I don't know if they average them or what, but yeah, that's how they get their one number. They look at those 3, but they look at version 2.
I
and
never knew
version
that.
5.
I didn't know
I
that.
know, or
Versions
that,
of
this
anything.
is just crazy to me. So what is the time period for major issues to come off? We're gonna move into another section here. We've got discharged and dismissed. These are chapter 13s. So a discharged chapter 13 takes 7 years from the filing date to clear from your credit report. If you have a dismissed chapter 13, it takes 10 years to clear from your credits. Credit inquiries. This is just somebody inquiring about your credit. You're checking on getting a new car or whatever. They take 2 years to clear off.
Wow.
Late payments. This is when you're 30 days late and someone reports you. Takes 7 years to clear off. And if you actually get taken to collections, they take 7 years from the date of your last activity. So I guess the last time you got sent to the collection agency or whatever. So it's 7 years. Okay. July 1st, this is really new stuff of 2022. This hasn't even happened yet. July 1st is next week, right? If you had paid medical collection debt, if you paid it off, okay, but before it was holding on, like, I don't know how many years, 5 years, 7 years, or whatever, if you had medical collection debt, now they are saying paid medical collection debt will no longer go on the credit report. So it's paid off, it's going to get cleared off your credit report. Now, in January of 2023, so starting next year, the medical debt that's under $500, so you racked up a bill, but you didn't quite go over $500, and then you didn't pay it, it's no longer going to get sent to the credit bureau. So there's penalties, I'm sure, but that penalty is not there. They're not going to send it to the credit bureau unless it's over $500.
So, I mean, if you paid down a debt and somehow missed the last little bit, under 500.
Yeah, I don't know for sure.
But it's not retro, probably.
Yeah, and I doubt that it's not, I doubt that.
Well, I'm just
But,
saying that when
Probably
they
the
look
original
all their
charge has to be
Cs
under
that
500.
yeah, this is starting in January, any debt that you accumulate is over under
Yeah,
500.
when has there ever been under $500?
Yeah.
That's always 5,000.
Maybe maybe you went to the dentist or something, even that's pretty high. Okay, so here's one that comes on, the Experian Boost. This
That's
is
what I was
a
thinking.
commercial that I've
That
seen.
says, utilities. The boost is supposed to,
They-
link in your utilities.
Yeah, they will, if you've had a good credit record of paying your utilities on time or paying your Netflix on time, some little things that normally are not checked into, that will help you increase your score. However, guess what? They're using FICO 8. It will increase your FICO 8 score, but not your 2 and your 5 and your 4. Okay, it's not going to help you with your mortgages. FYI. Credit repair sites often do things that make it look like it's improved, but only temporarily. This is like out of this world to me. They may dispute, these credit repair places, what they'll do is they'll go in and they'll make a dispute on couple of your big charges. Well, while that's in dispute, guess what? It doesn't show up on your credit, so your credit score is raised while it's in dispute. So that's a temporary fix, not a very wise one. And these same companies that are doing that, they can't pull your credit report. They rely on you to bring in your own report. So they're not, they're not in the know. It's just that they figured out how they can make things raise up. Civil judgments or tax liens. These are no longer on your credit reports, but a mortgage lender is still going to be checking for that. They will request those separately. They're still going to find out if you have a tax lien against you that says you can't buy a house, but it's not on your credit report. Okay? Bankruptcies, however, do show up on your credit report. Okay? Another thing they look at is your trending data. What is your trended habits? Obviously, are you late all the time, or do you just pay the regular payments? Or do you have a habit of paying a little extra every month? That's going to help raise your credit score and your credit worthiness if you're paying a little bit extra all the time. They actually look at your patterns. Okay? And then this is something that we probably have all come across before, the UDN, undisclosed debt notification. This is what happens when about 72 hours before we get to the closing table and the lender goes back and rechecks your credit. They will refresh the report 72 hours before closing. I don't think it's a major ding on you because they've already checked your credit or whatever, but that's something that they do, the undisclosed debt notification. Undisclosed. And that just means that it didn't show up, last month, but now it's showing up because you have something new.
The furniture.
Yeah, the furniture,
The ring.
the ring. I love to tell the story about the ring because I actually had somebody right before closing. They were so excited to buy a new house and get married that he went and bought that engagement ring and put it on a credit line, a monthly payment plan. And guess what? They almost, by the skin of their teeth, they still made it, but that affects your debt to income, but it also affects that you just got another ding on your credit score and that brought it down another notch. Okay? They did end up buying the house, but it was pretty close. Monitor your credit. Why should I monitor my credit? Well, to check for fraud or errors. It's one thing to know your score, but is anyone else out there getting something on your credit that you don't know about? My husband, Roy, has a twin brother, Ray. And their social security numbers are only 1 digit different. When we tried to buy a house, there was a lot of Ray's stuff on Roy's credit report. So he had to report it, and it takes a good month for that to fall off once they do finally do their work. It's like calling the IRS. They take their time doing stuff. And so when they finally got to it, it takes a month to get off your credit report, and then not only that, but you have to report it to all 3 companies, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Okay, so because each company, I don't know how they all land on all 3, because I think people only report it to the credit one place. I'm not sure, but it takes all 3 separately to get it back off. Okay. Now you asked about Credit Karma. Credit Karma gets their data from TransUnion and Equifax. What they don't get is Experian. So you're still not getting the full picture. And I don't know which numbers they use. Like I don't know if Credit Karma is really getting
Say that again, draws on which one?
the TransUnion and Equifax. But I have this feeling that they're drawing like the number 8, not the number 2, you know what I'm saying? So, yes.
I have a question. When somebody checks credit, does it cost the person checking?
Right. Not, if you go
I
to
know
the
I
right,
mean personally, I don't
it
mean,
depends where you go to get it.
I mean
So,
the lender or when the background check.
yeah, that all costs money because they're getting the real scores. You can go on annualcreditreport.com. This is one I put on there. That will give you all 3 scores, but it's not the number 2 version. Okay? So you're getting a general idea of what your credit is, but it's not necessarily going to be exactly the same thing that the mortgage
And
lenders
you can do
get.
that weekly?
Yes, and this was crazy. So Vicki said pre-COVID, you were allowed to check your credit score every week for free. And then when I went on Experian, I was checking out their website yesterday, and it says that it was supposed to expire April of 2022, but somewhere I saw that date, but then when you go on Experian, it still says it's active, like you can still do it. I don't know how much longer you're gonna be able to do it. Okay, but just, be aware that that might not be forever because that was due to COVID.
You're saying the report, does it just give you the score or does it give you?
I haven't done
It gives you the
reports.
report. I mean, you get every account you've ever had, or that still hasn't fallen off yet.
Right, okay.
And it'll say, on time or whatever.
And you can check all 3 major credit.
Yeah.
Okay. To get all 3 scores, you can also visit, now this one costs money. You can visit the myfico.com. There is a charge. She was saying $19.99. When I went on there, I looked and it was like $39.99. Well, then when I scrolled down, there was a different thing for $29.99 and a different thing for $19.99. So, depending on how in depth, I guess you want to, how much money you want to spend. But the thing is if you go in there and you pay that thing, it's not a one-time fee. You're signing up for a service and it will recharge you every month. So you also have to cancel it before it charges you again. Okay? And then even this website had disclaimers that you may not see the same version that mortgage lenders are looking at. And when Vicki was telling us about it, she kind of made out like this was the right thing. If you pay the money, you get the real deal. But they did have disclaimers on their website that said it might not be the right FICO scores. Okay? You can freeze your credit, and you have some places on there where you can actually go to each one of those reporting agencies, the Equifax and then all those, to protect yourself from people taking out loans or buying stuff in your name. Now, the only problem you have with that is when you want to go buy something, then you need to call their 1-888 number, whatever's listed there, to unfreeze it. Okay, so it's just a phone call. But it's kind of a good thing to do if you feel like anybody, would be out there trying to use your credit, and believe it or not, they're working on
I
it.
think Experian, you can lock it too.
Yeah, because you have one for each place. You have a
Oh.
Experian freeze, TransUnion.com freeze, and the Equifax, whatever that is. Those are all the 3 places where you go to freeze it. And then I gave you the 800 numbers to unfreeze it. Okay, so who is selling your info to credit card companies and insurance companies? Those people who solicit you? Anybody know?
Probably the companies themselves.
Equifax, TransUnion, all 3 of them. So the credit bureaus are the ones who are actually selling your information. And what people are buying is they're not going in there saying, hey, give me Kim Hoogler's stuff. They're going in there and they say, I want to see everybody who is 650 and above who would qualify, and they sell those names and addresses. Now, you can opt out of the solicitation from credit and insurance companies by doing that optoutprescreen.com. And here's what I found when I went to their website, because this is kind of interesting. The optoutprescreen.com, they do tell you this is, we're selling your stuff, and here's the benefit of us selling it, and then here's how you can opt out if you want to opt out. So, but before I get into that, Another thing that has popped up on several different locations that I've been on just yesterday, and it says Microsoft has announced it will be sunsetting Internet Explorer as of June 15th, 2022. So we will no longer be ensuring the compatibility of Internet Explorer with this site. We recommend that all consumers switch to one of the other browsers. That's your Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. So if you're still using Internet Explorer, probably nobody is because nothing's compatible, it's really not going to be compatible after June 15th, okay? So back to opt-out pre-screen. What are the benefits of receiving the firm offers? So I personally don't find these to be big benefits, but they're saying this is why they do it. Consumers are provided with product choices. Consumers learn about and have an opportunity to take advantage of offers that may not be available to the general public. Firm offers help consumers to comparison shop, which may increase a consumer's buying power. And then if you want to opt out, here's a little tidbit. You can do it by going to their website, and that will opt you out for 5 years. It's not a forever opt-out. Unless you want forever, you can permanently do that. And if you want to do it permanently, you have to do it by mail. And there is an opt-out election form available on that website. So this is how you do it if you don't want to get any more of that solicitation.
This is just for financial stuff.
Yeah. So it's basically like Capital One might send you stuff all the time or whatever. Those banks, that's how they're getting your information.
People still don't.
What has to do with you got an old lady? We get those too. AARP. All right, fraud. So here's some things that I learned about fraud. This is where the ink pen comes in. All right. Did you know? Has everyone seen the movie Catch Me If You Can?
Oh, you mean the con artist? Is that the one where
He does all kind of cons. Catch me if you can. Okay, so he's out there conning the world, making $1 billion. And now, guess what? There's people that have hired him to protect them from people like him. So he's still making $1 billion. He's not in jail. Yeah, now he's legitimately helping them to not have fraud. So one of the things that he did, though, in the movie, and I guess it's a real thing, is he can wash a check. So what they do is they put a piece of tape over your signature because we need that, and then we wash out the little numbers and we change it to, $100,000 instead of $100. And they can do that because they can wash the ink off of your check.
Wow.
So I have provided you today with a non-washable ink pen. So put this in your checkbook. Okay?
How did you know it was not washable?
Because, I didn't show you, that's why I didn't give it to you. I wanted you to not see. There's the packaging. I got this at Walmart. Get this. Like $5 for 5 of them. I don't know, it wasn't that bad. 207 gel pen. The classic 207 for the professional's first choice, formulated for consistently smooth, even flow. The 207 ensures every word is brilliantly communicated. Stylish metallic accents, features an innovative super ink that protects against water, fading, and fraud. It's actually on their packaging.
Of course, now, we always used to think, checks were so much more safe,
Right.
secure,
Mm-hmm.
until it just, finally.
Now you can take a picture of a check and deposit it.
Well, yeah, but it also has your writing number and your account number on the check, so you're basically saying,
You're giving out your information and you write a check to somebody.
and they can use it, so I'm a little less weary of
Okay.
cards.
Here's another thing I did not know about how people can fraud you. You know the big printer that we have? Copy machine? Did you know that has a hard drive in it that saves everything you've ever scanned? And if you change that out, you give it back to the company and then they go resell it to somebody or whatever, somebody can get a hold of all that information. And I'm sure that we have a lot of very important things in there we would not want to get out. So she was saying, it's important that if you do get rid of your big printers like that, that you can, you know, I don't know how you do it, but you can get rid of the data on there. You can clear it out, just like you would erase anybody else's hard drive. And that's kind of important. So, and people could get their identity stolen or have someone open accounts in their name. This happens all the time. And who is most at risk?
Elderly people.
Go the opposite. What about brand new babies? Who don't check their credit for 18 years because they never had a reason to. Yeah, so they can get a hold of your social security number. And one way they can get a hold of it is by you put it all over Facebook that I got a brand new baby that weighs 7 pounds, 10 ounces.
The birthday, yeah.
Birthday, everything. And then they know, oh, well, if we come up with their address in about 6 to 8 weeks or whatever it is, we'll start watching their mailbox and get a hold of that social security card. So there's people out there smart enough to do that. Anyway, so that's something, and a lot of times people will find out that their children have had
My son had
I've
10
had
years
fraud.
old, we had, something happened, our social security cards were compromised, so they had to check, and Joe had a house lien in his name, and he was like 10.
Ooh,
So
yeah,
that doesn't.
It
If
does
you go online and your child is under the age of 18, you can't check it on their online website.
she said something about making an account for your child. I don't know how to do that, but somewhere it's possible that you can make an account for your child and then freeze it so nobody can do that to
We had
them.
a report on my daughter's number because it was stolen.
Yeah.
But if you just go online and type in your social and your birthday and all that information, it'll tell you your child is under 18, you can't check. We don't keep records on children under 18. So you do have to set up a special thing.
Yeah, there's something where you have to set it up and freeze it, okay? But I could not tell you how to do that. So, let's see. Watch your mail. And if you are concerned about someone that may try to steal your mail, there is actually an app called Informed Delivery, USPS.
Yeah, I use that every day.
And actually, but what I want, and that is, they tell you what's coming in your mail. Because apparently the post office, you know, scans every document that's leaving there, and they know which truck it went on and when it's going to your house and all of that. So you actually can get that app. But when I looked up this app, there was some, and I don't know who's true and who's not on Facebook, but there was something, a note saying that this one is going away summer of 2021. Well, that was last summer, right? So that very well could be fraud, not sure. And it's leading you to go to a different one called USPS Mobile. So if the delivery system one goes away, maybe that's something new. But it also could be a fraud that they're sending you to their own place. I don't know. All right, so I'm not real sure which one's accurate. So, but main thing is, you know, keep your info private. And this was something she gave me a new term. Ever heard of shoulder surfing? When you're in the doctor's office and you're filling out all your social security number and all this stuff, and somebody's over your shoulder looking at your paperwork, taking a picture, whatever. So it could happen. And then Vicki gave some very interesting advice. I'm having a hard time grasping this one, but I don't want to not say it. She said she never uses her debit card to pump gas or make purchases. She always uses her credit card. Her big reason for that is if somebody is out there frauding you, wouldn't you rather them take the credit card people's money than your own personal what's in your bank?
Yes.
So that's why she said to do it, okay? She always, so I don't know. See, I just don't have a credit card that I use regularly. And so I have a hard time thinking I want to do that, but.
Isn't there something that they can put on the gas pump?
Yeah.
Maybe
A
copy your
reader, some
information
kind of
and put it
reader.
in there.
Skimmer.
Skimmer, yeah.
And you actually can feel before you stick your card in there, and you might be able to feel something there, and then don't do it obviously if you find something, but I've had people tell me they feel it first, so.
I feel like I'm not gonna stick my fingers in there.
I don't think it can go in there anyway, but just, you know, there's something sticking out.
Yeah.
It could just be slid up in there. And it is, oh, she also claimed that it was harder for the bank to for her to get money back if they took it out of her bank account than it would be for the
That is
credit
true.
card companies.
I can attest to that.
Okay, tell us why.
Well, because that you have, what the bank told me is you have the same protections as you would with a credit card. With a credit card, it's just hanging out there to be paid. On your checking account, that money is not, they are not available.
It's gone.
It's
I mean,
gone.
it's gone.
It's gone
Right.
until you dispute it, which could take a long time. And
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
'Cause I have had stuff happen on my debit card before, and the bank was just, they were automatic and wonderful, so I didn't have any issues. That's why I was like, okay, I don't see the difference.
Yeah, but it wasn't somebody else. Well,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
And then they depend on who you bank with too, I bank with a small bank, so. All right, if you are a victim of fraud, be sure to report it to your bank or credit card company, and when all else fails, if things aren't working for you, you can file a complaint with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and I believe that's on your paper, the consumerfinance.gov. Okay? Any questions?
I was gonna tell you, did y'all know that Cash App can take back money? So if,
Is that like PayPal?
it happened to me where somebody Cash Apped me something, and then like 2 months later, they took it back out of my account. And then that person that paid it went to the bank and disputed it, and they took that money back from me and gave her, it was like $800.
Even though she's the one that initiated the.
Even though she sent it to me, and I had a receipt for the purchase, didn't matter. She was able to take that money back. She ended up paying me back, but
Oh my word.
I don't use Cash App anymore.
Jennifer Cash App is its own app, it's not.
It's what?
It's the same as PayPal, but.
That's what I meant. It's a similar
Yeah.
thing.
I use Venmo
Yes,
all the
Cash
time.
App and PayPal, I would say. Venmo, I hear, is the best one to use.
That's
but
I use
That
all the
seems
time.
my
But
bad.
I didn't know Cash App
But
could take
people
money
don't pay
back.
me. I use it to pay them.
Yeah, I didn't turn down money. I said, yes, you can pay me.
Yeah.
And it was like $100. You can
Yeah.
Cash App it to me. I had no idea that Cash App could take that money back
Nice.
months later.
Wow.
That's-
That's
She went to the bank and said, that was a fraudulent, it wasn't, whatever, I don't know what she told me, but she said it was fraudulent, so they took that money back from me. Like, I woke up in the morning, it caused me to bounce a check. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, all this money just came right back out of my account.
Wow. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this class. I realized that there was so much that I didn't know when I took it, and so that's why I felt like it's important for everybody to know. And it's for all consumers, not just realtors.
What was the name of her class?
Her class was called Focus on Credit - Preparing for Obtaining a Mortgage Loan. That was her class. But it just didn't, it told her name, but it didn't tell like who she came from. And I believe she was a lender of some sort, she's been in the banking industry enough to know it, so. But that was a class that I took that was, a CE credit, so it was a good class.
Thank you, Kim.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all for
Thanks for
coming.
doing that.